Hello and welcome to another tutorial on Ultraschall 5. My name is Joram. Today I want to show you how you can turn your recording into a great sounding recording using mastering with Ultraschall. A well-mastered episode is the key to have your listeners enjoy listening to your podcast. There are a couple of really cool tools that help a lot by adjusting mistakes you have during a recording, some things that went wrong, and let's dive right into it. First thing I want to show you is the manual approach. This is not what I usually use. This is what I use in certain circumstances, but I think it's useful to know that, and that goes very quickly. I have a demo project set up here, and we can quickly skip through it. So we have an intro. Hi, my name is Joram, and I am today here with Joram. Yeah, hi. And some whenever you talk to a computer, you will find some way of. So we have some mistakes here. We have in the beginning an intro, then we have Joram 1 who says a few words, and then Joram 2 is way too loud. Yeah, hi. And Joram 1 continues speaking. Cool stuff. And Joram 2 again too loud, and then Joram 1 is like, oh, something is too loud here, and then plays with his gain knob and the computer becomes way too quiet. This is a little bit extreme, but this is stuff that happens. Some people play around with their gain on the recording, and then you get wildly different levels, and this can be very annoying. This is also a problem that can happen if you don't use a headset, but instead use a standalone microphone, and then you move your head around, and sometimes you're close to the microphone, sometimes you're far away, and then you get inconsistent volume throughout your recording, and then you have to fix that. The easiest way, or the most easy to understand way, not the quickest way by any means, is to manually correct it. I can just use my S key here to cut this clip, and then I'm simply dragging, touching the top part here with it until my cursor changes, holding down the shift key and then dragging up, and then I can make any clip louder, and it in the opposite direction if I simply pull down, then I make it quieter. And holding down the shift key allows you to make it louder. If you don't hold the shift key, it will only go quieter, not louder. So with that, I can sort of visually adjust this, and then I have natural language processing assistance in like two parts that are roughly the same volume. So I fixed that mistake already quite easily. But if you imagine you're doing that not on a 5 or 60-second recording, but on a 60-minute recording, and you have changes throughout, you have to manually spot them and adjust them, and this is really, really annoying. So there's better ways to do that. I will show you now my workflow, how I am mastering the podcast that I produce, and later, after I show you sort of the chain of things that I do, I will then talk in detail about why I do all of this stuff. But if you want to just see what is the quickest way to get my podcast to sound nice, just follow along for the next, 2 minutes. I don't think it will take much longer than that. The first thing we want to do is we select our items, and then we're going to normalize these. Normalize loudness of selected items to -23 LUFS. This is a unit for volume or for loudness, and if we do that, it will think for a second, and we can already see from the waveform that now the stuff that was too loud has been brought down, and the stuff that was too quiet has been brought up. I'm today here with Joram. Yeah, hi. And now it sounds much nicer together because it is not as loud. And it's all similar volume. Next thing I do, and I often do this without even listening to the first second of my recording, this is all stuff I do blind. I turn on my EQ effect and my dynamics effect. By the way, if you don't have the effects panel on yet, you can simply press the FX button on the individual tracks, and I turn this on for all voice tracks that I have, not for my soundboard track. Equalizer on, dynamics filter on. And finally, I go to my master track, and this is also very important. Click on the FX and then turn on the loudness meter effect. And now, if I play back, today here with Joram. Yeah, hi. And I'm really excited to talk with myself about we have a much nicer sounding podcast. And with that, we're already done and we could publish this and it sounds nice and even. I would maybe manually also adjust the volume of this intro to match the other loudness, roughly like this. And then we're good. This is the quick way of doing the audio editing and mastering of your podcast, and you end up with the ideal loudness of your episode. With this, we're technically done, but now I want to show you in detail what I have done and why I have done it, so you can understand it and also fine-tune it if you need to. Because there is one thing that you've immediately spotted.
Yeah, hi.
We have a weird echo effect here, and we have that because we have crosstalk. We have the signal from Yoram 2 has made its way into the signal of Yoram 1, maybe through being in the same room. I was in the same room with me when I recorded this, and my voice was picked up by the other microphone. That could be one reason. Another reason could be if I'm for example, doing this as a remote recording, but my headphones are set too loud, or there are open headphones, and so this noise from my headphones travels to the microphone, is picked up again with some latency, and then you get the signal on the other recording where you don't want to have it. And this, of course, can lead to this annoying echo effect.
Yeah, hi.
And a way to combat that would be, the easiest is to simply mute this, but then you have to do this manually throughout your recording. This can be annoying, so what I like to do is instead go into my dynamics filter and look at how it works. The dynamics filter looks at any given volume and then decides what to do with the volume at this point. If it's quiet volume, it will try to make it more quiet. So if you take, for example, this section here in the beginning, I'm looping this and isolating the track. You can see here from this red bar that goes down that it's pulling it down. It sees the volume and it's like, okay, this is non-important signal, I'm pulling this down. And you can still hear it a little bit, but if I turn it off, it's much louder. So it makes these breathing noises or other little rattling sounds a little bit quieter. If you have volume that's sort of in the middle,
My name is Yoram.
it will boost it, and you see it by the green indication here. It will boost it to whatever target we set, in this case minus 20 LUFS. And if we have stuff that's loud, we see it turns red again because it's lowering it down so we don't get any clipping, and it's bringing it down to a comfortable level. And with that, it's sort of compressing the audio signal, and this is actually a combination of a compressor and a limiter to give us a nice, even signal throughout that's much more enjoyable to listen to than something that constantly bounces in volume. So with this understood, we can now look at this section, and we realize it sits right here in the middle part where it's not exactly boosted, but also not turned down. We want it turned down. So what we can do is we shift this around by adjusting the noise floor, and we see that we change the attack rate of this filter. So how quickly will it respond? We can also adjust the noise gate a little bit and make it steeper or less steep, and therefore also adjusting the way it reacts to that. And now when we play this, we're now in the red section of the signal and not in the green section. So we turned it down, and then if we do that then in context here.
I am today here with Yoram.
We see that we didn't change much to the actual signal that we care about, and we lowered the part in the stuff that we want to lower. And with this, if we now listen back,
Yoram.
we still have a little bit of the echo, but much less. I would find this passable. This is okay. But of course, if you want to be really perfect, then you have to go through it and mute all of this stuff, or make sure that during the recording you don't get this crosstalk. I simulated this here in a much more extreme way. Sometimes it's more subtle, but it happens quite often, and it's something that you want to address. Otherwise, you get this weird echo, especially when people start recording Zoom calls or Skype calls, where sometimes you have have a second or 2 seconds delay. And if you then pick up the second, you can hear every word being said again 2 seconds later, coming from the other host. Yeah, and so with that, we can play with the dynamics filter. It pushes everything to -20, and then finally the master effect here, the loudness meter, will push everything by 4 LUFS to -16, while doing also a limiting in there so that you don't get clipping. And we do that because we otherwise, if we have 2 signals that are already at -16 and they are laid on top of each other, the resulting signal will be too loud. And with that, we get like a nice even effect chain. So that's it for the dynamics filter. You really have to only know that it treats different volumes differently, and that you can adjust that with this curve, and you can play around with this. You don't want to go too extreme. If we do that,
Talk with myself about natural language processing today.
you get this pumping effect where it constantly cycles between very loud and very quiet, and this is really annoying to listen to. So you don't want to make this too extreme. The default value really is for most recording situations. This is fine. We only had to adjust this because of the crosstalk. If you wouldn't have the crosstalk, if you can avoid that during the recording, then we don't even need to adjust this filter at all. Can just leave it at a default setting, and it sounds perfect. And with that, we have the volume sorted out. Now, the last thing I want to briefly talk about today is the equalizer settings. Also, Ultraschall comes with a couple of defaults that work very well. Equalizer is this thing that is very much depending on taste, so you want to adjust it so that you think it sounds nice. There's not really a technical approach to it where you can say this is a perfectly adjusted equalizer. It has to be adjusted perfectly so you think it sounds nice with the person and the microphone that you're using. So for different people and different technical setups, you want to have different equalizer settings. In general, equalizer works like this, that you have the frequencies on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis, and then you adjust with this curve how the different frequencies are treated. Are they elevated or pulled down in terms of volume? And so what we did sort of on a general level with the dynamics effect for volume, we can do here now for frequency. And the lower tones, the lower frequencies, I would say like up to roughly 500, maybe 1000 hertz, is sort of the warm bass sounds that make a voice sound, warm and nice. It's also a similar effect that you get when you go closer to a microphone. And the higher frequencies are the frequencies that give brilliance to a voice, as the important part for human voice is between 3000 and 5000 hertz. This is where the optimum range for human voices are. So this really much influences how easy somebody is to understand. If you put this too low, then somebody sounds muffled. And if you put this too high, this sounds like coming through a telephone. So you want to find the perfect middle ground there for your speaker. In general, I personally like to treat male voices by increasing the brilliance, by increasing the higher frequencies a little bit and boosting those, because male voices often lack in these higher frequencies and they're better to understand if you boost them a tiny bit. And female voices are often already quite present in the higher frequencies, and they often boost the lower frequencies a little bit to give them a little bit more room and a little bit more warmth. But as I said, you have to adjust this pretty much for every speaker that you have. You can save your own presets here. If I adjust this and I like it, I can simply click the plus button here and save it as a preset for myself. And then for all of my recordings, I can come back to that preset, and this is the Joram preset, and it sounds great. And then you can do that for every host that you're podcasting with, and then select the right preset. And that's it. With the equalizer and the dynamics filter, you can get really good sounding or great sounding podcasts without any third-party software and without any trouble. What you want to do is every time you start your editing, you normalize all of your clips to -23 LUFS. You turn on the dynamics filter, and if you want to, also the equalizer filter for all the tracks that has voices on them. You turn on the filter on the master, and then you adjust any soundboard or any non-voice tracks manually to match the overall sound level, and then you're good to go. Before I forget it, there's one handy thing that tells you if you are in the right ballpark.
About natural language.
If you look at this level meter here in the right in the center,
With myself about natural language process.
you have a central level that gives you the immediate level of the immediate loudness of any sample that you're playing, and then the wider bars left to right
About natural language process.
they give you the average volume over the last couple of seconds. And with that, if that's in the green area,
About natural language processing today.
if that's in the green part, that you're good. If it's in the red part, you're too loud. And with that, you can very easily adjust your stuff. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will try my best to help you, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.